We don't all come from the same financial or economic means. However, if we're going to be fair, I could say there are other sports that are predominantly sports of color, where we as people of color have gravitated to. Now, I'm not here to get into the discussion of we gravitated to that because that's where we were forced. That history is known and well documented. We're talking cycling. In cycling, all clubs, I believe, has done one thing, that it has shined a light, a very bright light on. We cycle too, we like riding bikes too, just like you like riding bikes. If we're going to look at it as a us versus them. And you know what? That's a common denominator. You like a bike, I like a bike. Hey, let's get together. Let's start from a position of sameness and grow from there. We also appreciate the differences. I walk in a room, you see me, my skin color, I'm a Black person. Maybe that person walks into a room, I see them, they're a Caucasian person. Okay, we have all the history of information about those two things, but let's start from a position of sameness. How can we appreciate this difference and focus on a positive?
Welcome to Ride to Success, the podcast that takes you on a learning journey to more productive, creative, and active life through the power of the bike. I'm your host, Pedro Couto Lopes. You can find me on LinkedIn under my own name. I'll leave a link on the show notes. In today's episode, we sit down with Kenneth Vinson, a community architect, cycling advocate, and founder of All Clubs LA, an organization reshaping the cultural landscape of cycling in America. This episode is about building bridges between people and between communities. So what's in it for you? If you ever felt like an outsider in a sport, a space, or a system, this episode will speak directly to you. If you ever ask yourself, how can I build something that matters? This episode will give you real, grounded answers. And if you believe that cycling is more than just fitness, it's also a force for change, then you are in the right place. So stick with us until the end of the episode, because you'll get an understanding of how to turn a vision into a movement, even if you're starting small. Also, the importance of showing up for your community, especially when no one is watching, and why riding a bike together can be the first step in changing the world around you. So let's get into the episode. Welcome, Ken, to Ride to Success. It's a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Thank you, Pedro. Thank you for having me, finding me, giving me this opportunity on your platform. I'm looking forward to today.
Brilliant. Totally my pleasure. I wanted to start by kind of getting to know you a little bit more and giving the opportunity to our listeners that don't know you to get to know you a little bit more personally. And you started cycling in 2010. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
So, and you have founded along the way All Clubs LA, but that's kind of, I'm going to reserve that to later in the podcast. I wanted to kind of understand, first of all, what has been your personal journey with cycling? Like, what drew you into the sport?
I like to share with people that when I found cycling, I was in search of looking for something to do health-wise. So quick story, right. I through college, I played football. Like a lot of people, I was athletic. Then life came into play, got a little less active. Work came into play. There was that work-life imbalance. And
we all know it.
And I got overweight. And so when I got to a point to start looking at trying to get back in some kind of shape, I took up running. I couldn't play football anymore. I used to like running into people. So I took up running. I ran the 25th and 26th LA Marathon, and I liked running.
Impressive.
But the impact on the body was an issue.
Yeah.
So
knees, especially, I guess.
Yeah, I had a neighbor who I talked into doing the marathon with me, and he didn't really like it. And so he talked me into following the marathons to try riding a bike. He had found a local cycling club, and I went to that. And so that's how I got into cycling. And then I found out that cycling is one of the most hardest things I had ever did. And so that's how I got into it. It was health motivated and spurred on. So that's how I ended up here.
Was it harder than marathons, than running marathons?
For me,
yeah.
Now that I have experienced what I have experienced on the bike or attempted to experience on the bike, racing, doing some endurance, it's definitely right up there. I was never, a champion cyclist, but I was a champion cyclist in my own mind, doing the best that I could, leaving it all out there. And cycling is, I think, the hardest sport at that level of, if you're trying to be top tier, it's just hard, I'm sure you know. So yes, it's right up there with the marathon.
Very good.
Sure.
Yeah, it's kind of it's interesting you say that, because it's a lot of experience from runners that, whether through injury or other reasons, find cycling as a way to continue their health and to improve their health, and kind of cycling becomes a secondary source, but then it quickly takes over their lives and becomes the primary kind of hobby, if you will.
Yes.
And I'm curious, just as we're on topic of like how you got into cycling, what was your experience getting into that first kind of club ride, if you will, into that cycling club your neighbor introduced you to?
I remember when I was a kid, bikes were called bikes in 10 speeds. Okay.
Right.
I was so focused on my work prior to finding cycling. I had not paid any attention to the Tour de France or anything, but towards the end of Lance Armstrong, it started becoming popular. I read a lot, and so I would read the paper and I'd see, what was going on in the Tour de France, and this guy winning all these races. This is back in, if I can, back in the mid 90s, into the 2000s. And so the first shock when I went to go look for a bike was there was a bike shop here called Performance Bicycle Shop. And it was kind of like a store more than a bicycle shop. And I went in there to look for a bike. Now I'm thinking a bike is going to run a couple of $100. Okay. That sticker shock was something to behold. So getting to that first group ride involved getting a bike, and that sticker shock was something I will never forget. And if you don't mind me sharing, I bought a Diamondback. And maybe at some point in time in this talk, we'll explain that. But I bought a Diamondback. It was $1,800, and I showed up at that group ride, not understanding that it's a road bike, and not understanding that all the things, the clicky things about cycling, like that you're supposed to take off the mirrors, the reflectors, and all of that kind of stuff. And I'll stop here. I hadn't gotten to the part of clicking in, so I came with flat pedals.
I mean, I've started like that. I mean, everyone has to start somewhere. So it's like, that's how people get into cycling. You look up at what other people are doing, but you still have to take a few steps before you get there. There's a learning curve that needs to happen.
Yes. And hopefully you'll touch on the clothing part as well.
So if it's fair to say that it was quite an experience, like quite a shock to come into. Yeah.
Yes.
But we are sitting now here talking about your experience. So it has been overall a positive experience for us to be sitting here talking about about that
Yes.
experience back in 2010.
Yes, it was. It was. I want to acknowledge I joined a super club. More importantly, it had superhero people. I joined Major Motion,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a gentleman by the name of Kevin Evans who led that club.
Right.
And Kevin is a dear friend today. That club, and then all the other people that were a part of the club, but Kevin was the leader, and I learned. He started me on my journey. I had to learn how to ride a
Mm-hmm.
bike, and
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay.
being comfortable with all these people around me, up close and
Yeah, it's a
personal.
big thing. Yeah, it's a
So
big thing. Yeah.
went through all of that, but I joined a club that became a second home.
That's simple. Well, that's amazing. I mean, that is. I think that's a kind of an experience that perhaps from my conversations with guests, it's not always the case, but it's invaluable when you have that, when you find that club where it welcomes you, takes you under their wing, and kind of helps you kind of grow and kind of enjoy cycling.
Yes.
I, and I'm interested to find out if because you were athletic before taking cycling. Has cycling influenced your personal mindset, kind of, or your take on the world since you have started cycling with clubs more actively?
The question is, has it helped
Yes,
shape
yeah,
my
it has
mindset?
influenced your personal mindset, your
I
outlook on.
I don't know so much that it has influenced my mindset, but it has been an outlet for my
Okay.
mindset, for sure. I came to the sport with a quite bit of history of community engagement,
Yeah.
and a need for that. And I think one of my gifts is the ability to create community connection. And so,
Yeah.
in when I found cycling, and within that first year, just because of how my brain works, it's always on. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I started seeing things, noticing things, and then just over time, Kenneth started coming out, and so it helped shape in that way that I saw that there was a true need for connection and
Mm-hmm.
getting some of the groups out of their silos, out of the cliques.
Yeah.
And so all of that. And so, yes, it gave me an outlet.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned community, and kind of you having worked with communities in the past, and that's something that you kind of immediately your brain into work. So how can I kind of, I guess, make this into a more enriching experience for the people in the club? And I'm going to touch on that because that's an important part of your trajectory. But I wanted to kind of ask a question and kind of add for kind of to crystallize your experience as of cycling so far. What does a perfect ride look to you?
A perfect ride. Well, today I I get to ride with a core group of gentlemen, and they'll probably get, if they should ever hear this, they'll get upset with me in saying this. They're all
All right.
older. The majority of them are older than I am,
Okay.
and they kick my butt, something relentless, and they take away my excuse of using age. And then I have the very special ability of riding with some of the top cyclist in our local area. And so I'm a perfect ride with me is with that group where I'm riding with, some top guys. Maybe later, we'll mention some of those names, and guys that are older than me. So I don't have the excuse of using age, and I'm with top guys. So it's a suffer fest most of the time for me. So if again, back to your question, if I'm keeping up, right, and I'm feeling good keeping up, so that there's part of the perfect ride. Another part of a perfect ride for me is the moments where I let go of all the things that are going on, and I allow my brain to just kind of take in, the experience, being in the moment. And I love that. It's silence for me is loud. Maybe someone out there will understand that. But
can you break that down? That kind of what I don't quite understand that silence is loud. What does it mean for you, that saying or that phrase?
It's moments where some people find silence and it's silent. For me, it's loud because I don't have anything going on to distract me. And my brain is constantly going. And on a ride, in the moment where it's silent, I get a chance to take in and process and see things. I get a chance to think through things while I'm riding inches from this tire in front of me. And it allows me to think and come up with the ideas that I come up with. I do a thing that people say you shouldn't do, but I ride with one earbud in because it helps me kind of isolate on something. Because again, if not, that silence is loud and my brain is going and I'm trying to process all of this stuff. And so that oxygen, the dopamine, it's a way of processing all of that.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of relate to that in like as with the pedaling motion, you are moving kind of not only your legs, like left to right, left to right, left right, but also you're stimulating your brain, your left part of your brain, the right part of your brain with that. So you kind of you are, I guess, as you rightly said, processing, and kind of thoughts are kind of a stream of thoughts, and you just like, I guess, decide to pay attention or not. It kind of in these, and I'm now curious because you talk about the silence is loud, and you described the experience of going the perfect ride and being the moment. And I'm wondering, how many ideas have you had during a bike ride that have come to be realized, to whether it is projects, events, wherever it is? Is the bike ride your office, if you will, where you are brainstorming ideas and kind of bouncing back with your peers?
Yes, very much so. You asked two questions in that. I'll try and be succinct. All Clubs LA exists from a bike ride. And I'm not bouncing those ideas off of anyone other than me inside my own head, good, bad, or indifferent. I believe that in all clubs, I'm walking in my passion. I'm walking with my gifts. And it's taken a long time to get to this point of understanding and accepting that. So I am having a conversation with myself. Oftentimes I ride by myself so that I can have that conversation. I do go do group rides for sure. And so, as I said, All Clubs is a result of bike ride. and several other things that I've done. I get the clarity. I get the vision, and then it's just a matter of executing on it. And that vision, oftentimes for me, is so clear. I'm very dogmatic, if you will. I'm very structured in how I want to carry it through because it was so clear to me.
Yeah.
In that moment. So yes, I get a lot of ideas that have come into fruition from riding a bike.
Yeah. I mean, and so so we're now touching on All Clubs LA. The kind of the inception from a bike ride. So you founded All Clubs LA in 2017, and this was kind of I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, with kind of in partnership with Rashan Bahati, Justin Williams, and Sharon Smith. And I'm interested to learn more about how and what kind of gap in the cycling community were you hoping to kind of bridge, if you will.
Okay, great question. If I could give some clarity for correctness in terms of the process, how this kind of came to be. You just asked, about there being ideas thought of on the bike that have come into fruition. And I earlier explained about being on bike rides with a group of gentlemen, some older, some far more talented. One of the things that came from riding a bike with that type of group was we need to figure out a bike ride where this elite athlete, who in his typical riding style is probably his cadence is 100 RPMs a minute. This new guy just getting on a bike, my RPMs, my cadence might be 70, 75. It's boring for the elite athlete to go that slow. I'm struggling, dang near dying, trying to go as fast as he normally goes, that he considers slow. What could we do that would bring in the club, where oftentimes the club was the support for that elite athlete while they were coming up, but now he's elite and they're off, male or female, and they're off doing their thing, and they don't get a chance to come back home. What could we do that's going to bring in the club, that's going to get the elite athlete, that's going to get the novice rider who's come up through the club and then in my case, Rasan Bahati, I came up at the club, I joined Major Motion, he was supported by them as a youth. And now he's come up and he's off and he's racing all over the world and doing his thing. And he is the beacon, he's the person that Kevin would tell the stories about, right? Yet, I hear of this guy, but I never get to see this guy. And then the few races where I see him is like, wow, like, how does he do that? And what could we do, that would allow, and if you're following me here, we probably ride our bikes 250, 275, maybe some people 300 days out of the year.
Yeah.
What could we do that would take just maybe one or two rides out of the year where we could bring all of this together? Could we get this elite athlete to come hang out back at home and slow down? Just acknowledge up front, hey, you're coming back. This is not a training ride for you. This is a hangout with your fans ride. Could we get the clubs to come and support and be around? And could we get the novice riders? And so that bringing together I started a ride called Movement Rides, just movement, conversational pace, bringing all of that together. We're going to come together. And those initial movement rides were destination rides. They were immersion rides. I believe you learn through either academia or immersion. And so, hopefully you're still with me here.
I'm following you.
Okay.
All good.
Okay, so we did rides that would bring together the clubs and the elite athletes, and then they were destination rides to
Mm-hmm.
learn about different things. I live in an area where there is wealth on one side and there's poverty on the other. And oftentimes the only way you hear about either side is through the media and that form of oftentimes misinformation. And so putting
Yeah.
together a bike ride, whereas we were talking earlier on the bike, you get to take in way more than you do in a car. We would do destination rides. And so you
Okay.
have all of these ingredients, if you will, in this gumbo, the elite athlete, the club, the novice rider, going to a destination. We're slowing down. We're talking. We're getting people out of their cliques. We're building bridges.
Mm.
Those were called movement rides. At the end of 2016, there had been on one of the race training rides, there had been an incident, and I, being a person who kind of bounced back and forth, at that time I was trying my hand at racing. Um, our training ride is called NPR out here. And we go do NPR, we come back to the Starbucks. We get to the Starbucks, I notice that on this side, there's a group of people, and on this side, there's a group of people, and I'm bouncing back and forth. And we had an incident on a ride. So I have the movement rides.
What incident? What is the magnitude of this incident? What are we talking about?
Well, racing bikes sometimes, like in NASCAR racing, they say, rubbing is racing. And so, you ride up close and personal. And we had an incident where two guys of opposite racial ethnicity kind of got into it.
Okay.
And wanting to quell that, at the end of 2016, one of the things that I did was with Rasan Bahati. Let me give him some credit because he's going to say that he suggested this, and maybe he did, and I executed. But anyways, we had a softball game, and there were components to that softball game. So we had the movement rights going on, so we were already starting to lay the seeds of bringing people together. We had a softball game. I had also noticed
amongst the different communities,
of bringing these two particular groups together, or clubs. And so again, out here, if you call it the West Side, which is wealthy, and the South Side, kind of Compton area, LA part of South part of LA together, we had a softball game.
Okay.
The other thing that's key to this is I had noticed in the club that I had joined that this major motion club was responsible for helping support Rasan Bahati, a cycling savant, Justin Williams. And then there was a gentleman by the name of Sharon Smith, who was a masters racer, who was like the top master racer. And so I had noticed that these individuals, although they knew each other, they were kind of at different levels doing their own thing. And so I had approached them after getting to know them and getting them to understand I wasn't a stalker. At the end of 2016 and all of this stuff that had happened, we formed a company called Methods to Winning. Yeah. And that company was Rasan Bahati, Sharon Smith, Justin Williams, and myself. And so we had that softball game that led into, there's one other piece I must mention. I had met a gentleman on this ride by the name of Seth Davison. He had an awards show, kind of a roast awards show, and he was looking to diversify and get more involvement from the community. We had the softball game. And so the following year after the softball game, we brought together what he called, his award show was called the Wanky Awards. And I called it the All Clubs Barbecue. And so we brought together the awards and the barbecue, the Wanky Awards and All Clubs Barbecue. And that's how those two things came together. We did that for a couple of years. COVID hit. I used COVID as an excuse because I always wanted to get dressed up. Hopefully we can come back and talk about that at some point in time. And so
Yeah, yeah.
following COVID, we came back with a dress up event. We had the barbecue in the summer and we had the black tie gala in the beginning of the year. And I wanted to use that as a platform to kick off the year with the focus on community and building bridges. So there's a very long, short explanation of how this came together.
Yeah, and you touched upon kind of a few examples. You had the softball game, the kind of the barbecue. So these are kind of activities that are bringing together different clubs, different communities, and kind of so that they can mingle, they can get to know each other, and kind of sort of with that kind of hopefully break some barriers. And you have I believe extensive experience from your kind of day-to-day job working with communities and kind of from taking that professional side into from your life as a professional life, to kind of cycling. To kind of walk me through were these events in themselves enough to kind of overcome the barriers that existed, the incident that you described, to break down cultural or racial or otherwise barriers that were being kind of instigated, if you will?
Were they enough? Excuse me. I can't answer if they were enough. That works its way back down to an individual decision for a person. However, what I can say that I could visually see and document was the engagement of our communities here, coming together a few times out of the year, riding more, people starting to break bread with one another. It's a very ceremonial thing to sit down and eat together. Cycling is very
table.
Cycling is very cliquish. Okay.
I know that. Tell me about it. Yeah.
And to start getting people out of their cliques and riding with other groups and having that therapeutic process take place and doing things off the bike. That's the key. It's getting these two separate groups together. Yes, let's ride bikes. That's what we have in common. That's the common denominator. But let's go somewhere and get off the bike. Let's take off the shades, take off the helmet. Let me get to know you, or attempt to get to know you, at least be able to recognize you as a human being without shades and helmet, right? And so getting together, I can tell you that I witnessed, and I probably would be given a little bit of credit for, some clubs here doing some things throughout the year, coming together a little bit more. In clubs, inviting other clubs and participation. And so I know that we, in everything that I do or am involved in, I invite everyone. And my, I think they should know by now, my opening statement is get out of your clique, ride next to someone you don't know, and get to know somebody new.
That's so important. Being curious, being open to new experiences, that's important to grow as a human being.
Absolutely.
And I think when we're going to touch now on the, in kind of the mission, if you will, of all clubs LA, it's at its core, it's using the bicycle as a tool for cultural exchange to promote unity. And I wanted to kind of, with the historic background of cycling being predominantly white male, I wanted to understand how is All Clubs LA kind of changing the narrative?
So let's not shy away from an elephant in the room.
No.
Cycling is a traditional middle-aged white male sport, predominantly based in Europe.
That's correct.
And it has been a sport that, because of the barrier to entry, the cost, has excluded some. We don't all come from the same financial or economic means. However, if we're going to be fair, I could say there are other sports that are predominantly sports of color, where we as people of color have gravitated to. Now, I'm not here to get into the discussion of we gravitated to that because that's where we were forced. That history is known and well documented. We're talking cycling. In cycling, all clubs, I believe, has done one thing, excuse me, and that it has shined a light, a very bright light on, we cycle too. You know, we like riding bikes too, just like you like riding bikes. If we're going to look at it as a us versus them. And you know what? That's a common denominator. You like a bike, I like a bike. Hey, let's get together. Let's start from a position of sameness and grow from there. We also appreciate the differences. I walk in a room, you see me, my skin color, I'm a black person. Maybe that person walks into a room, I see them, they're a Caucasian person. Okay. We have all the history of information about those two things, but let's start from a position of sameness. How can we appreciate this difference and focus on a positive? And so on our website, there's a line there that says, we appreciate we see the differences as strengths. It's all in how you frame it and how you look at it. We see the bicycle as the common denominator. Now let's do some things to build community. Just one last thing on this. I come from the era of the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. I come from the era of a pride in being Black, but also an understanding of multiculturalism. We are a melting pot. And in seeing that, I believe that multiculturalism is the best way, and understanding and an appreciation of that is the best way to build a holistic community. And so
100%,
that's what I focus on,
that I completely agree with that. It's proven through the work you're doing, kind of that shining a light, and that's what I wanted to have this conversation with you. And it's also proven kind of in the I guess, if you want, in the corporate world, where companies that have a technically diverse workforce are kind of 36% more productive, and as a result more profitable.
Yes.
And it kind of having a more diverse communities, clubs, a workforce, it just brings more narratives, enriches the experience of everyone, and we get so much more out of it. So I completely understand, and kind of the evidence is out there. You just, I guess, if you close your eyes, you don't see it.
Right.
So I wanted you to kind of, one of the kind of the great things you have been doing with All Clubs LA is the gala, is kind of bringing together all these clubs around across the US, bringing the industry leaders, and kind of having this amazing event, kind of networking and celebrating. And I'm interested in kind of your point on it, your perspective from it. what was the kind of the impetus? You mentioned that you like dressing up. It's a black tie event in the beginning of the year. Talk us through what was the ambition with the event, the gala.
So, yes, let's start with the beginning of the year, setting the tone for how you go into the new year. Like, people go into New Year's with resolutions, right? So thinking as an analogy of, the resolution of, we want to set the tone, kick off the new year of bringing the cycling ecosystem together. I worked very hard at trying to get the C-suite to come out and participate, specifically getting the CEOs, get out of the office. Get the VPs, the COOs, get out of the office, come be at this event. The clubs, the athletes, bring the just the industry. We've often, and we still do, we have industry events and functions. A lot of times, they're boring. So one thing that we do as a people of color, we bring culture to everything. As we were just talking about multiculturalism, right? We bring culture. We bring a different seasoning, and that's good. That's a good thing. That's nothing to be ashamed of. And so where we have this event to bring us all together, and over these days of programming, we're going to ride bikes. We got to do that, right? Let's take this common denominator and let's go do what we love to do, ride bikes. But we're also going to, and the event focuses heavily on thought leadership. We want to get some of the people from the industry. Hey, come talk to your consumer base, right? Come get feedback from your consumer base. Get that exchange going. But what I'm very proud of is there are amazing people amongst us that ride bikes. And there isn't too many platforms to take the small person, and I consider myself a small person, in terms of doing something, and give them the stage, the opportunity to share with the broader community, oftentimes their community, what it is that they do. And so there's the thought leadership part. So we have the bikes, we have the thought leadership, and then let's go back to the question you started off with, which is, how do you get into the sport? Clubs. I joined a club. I would be gone on Saturday 3, 4, 5 hours because we would go ride and then we go to a restaurant or something and hang out. My partner doesn't know these people who I'm riding with and hanging out with 3, 4, 5 hours of the day. Okay. If we crash, these people are taking care of me, right? They're looking out for me. My partner doesn't know them. What could we do that would allow me, the cyclist, to get out of the kit, to get out of the shades, out of the helmet, bring my partner amongst this whole community that I'm a part of, and bring us all together? And that was the gala. And so in the initial year, the messaging was around, take your partner out again. Get dressed up. You're riding to be healthy. You put on a suit. You want to look good. Your partner wants to dress up, go out and buy a new dress, get some heels, and come together. And that was the Black Tie Gala. And so we brought this event together. It from the first year to this past year, it's grown in terms of the number of days. But that was the focus. It was to bring the ecosystem together. And I think that we have achieved some success in that. We have a long way to go, but we've achieved some success in that.
And with that, kind of you have, it's in kind of, because it's a celebration of cycling, it's a celebration of all clubs, and kind of is an opportunity for brands to come in and listen, take feedback, kind of, as you mentioned, the C-suite to understand as well what's going on. And, as brands come to the table and kind of take part, in these rides, in the evening gala. It's proven that, as I just said previously, it's like strong brands are made up of a vast array of people, of vast array of experiences. And when you bring ethnically diverse people to the table, it becomes even better. And I know that you have strong ties with brands like Swift. There's you have invited brands like SRAM, other brands, to come to the All Clubs LA. And what has been your experience of bringing these C-suite people to the event to have an open discussion? What has been the experience?
That first off, that's a great question. As you probably can see, I can cook you a 5-course meal, or I can cook you a quick lunch. I'm going to try and give you a quick lunch on that because, in reference to talking about this stuff, I'm going to try and just give you a lunch. I think that our industry, like business in general, because of how it's structured, is too focused on the next quarter, the rate of return, the rate of return, the ROI on what they're doing. I can tell you that from my personal conversations with CEOs or just the C-suite, once they're at the event, they all say the same thing, like, wow. It's a feeling that I just can't describe. I could say, Pedro, you come to the gala or gala, depending upon how you pronounce it, Julian. My pronunciation varies, in the same sentence.
I'm in Britain or in US, so it will be different.
But I can say, hey, you come, you're going to feel it. It's not the same as the experience when you're there and you feel the bumps on your arms, when you get to see a person that you've only seen through social media, when you're talking and you introduce yourself and you find out this person is the person that made the decision for that particular, part on your bike, or that person is the person that leads the company and they truly do want to hear what you think and what you have to say. But that is all wrapped up in what's it doing for my bottom line. So from a company standpoint, the other part of it is that, in this space, I believe that the ecosystem should take care of its own. And from that, I think that brands should offer up sponsorship, partnership. That's often a conversation that doesn't happen. There have been a few that get it. I believe that the community should support, and the community by and large, by far, has supported. And they do that by traveling and purchasing the tickets and being there. And they've done that. And I just want to say thank you. And so it is an experience that has to be experienced. And I think I'll end this lunch with this, in that it has resonated because of the CEOs that we've had over the years, the people, and it's culminated in this last year with us having people coming from other countries. We've had Ghana there. We've had people from the UK. We had people from Spain, and so it's really resonated, and the word is getting out, and that's because people are experiencing something that they truly enjoy, and they're spreading the word, and that's that organic growth marketing that you can't buy. So one last thing.
Go for it.
If most companies have research and development departments, I think the smart companies are going to be the ones that look at this type of work and look at it under the research and development department. you got to find some place on the spreadsheet, the balance sheet, where to put the money that you give to X, Y, and Z. The smart companies are going to figure out a way to do that, and not look at, just the next quarter or just the next year. This is something that has grown over time. And at some point in time, I'm sure we'll touch on, we face our own challenges, because it's not free. So there's an opportunity for companies to do more, and do more in the way of looking at it through a different lens, is what I'm trying to say.
I mean, so it's quite okay. So I'm trying to kind of, I guess, try to break down, because what he gave me is quite a complex and slightly veiled response to my answer, to my question.
I'm sorry.
And I kind of want. That's all right. That's all right. I want to dig a bit deeper on this, because so from what I understand, the level kind of brands that are coming to the gala, to the event, are going out with an overwhelming positive experience. But yet, it seems that there is a disconnect between what they experience and now where they put the money. I mean, you have in the US, kind of not too long ago, the DEI initiatives kind of has not become a priority. And as you rightly said, kind of brands, businesses are looking at the next quarter and say, well, how can this improve or benefit my bottom line? So it kind of, through reading in between the lines, if you will, there seems to be a disconnect between, the amazing work that has been happening, the gala that is shining a light on the kind of the amazing communities, but yet the brands are still lagging to adopt this. Do you think that is this? I mean, not all brands. Kind of an example, and this is just one example. I'm sure there are many more positive examples. Is that, for instance, SRAM has led great initiatives to kind of activate communities, sponsor communities that, whether ethnically diverse communities, that to give them the resources to do their things, do their club rides, or generate kind of enthusiasm for cycling in their communities. But I'm interested in finding out is what more work can be done from your perspective to make cycling more inclusive.
Ooh. Well,
you can give me the 5-course dinner now.
Okay. Not to give you a veiled response. I recently spoke with someone who I look up to, who I will remain nameless, but is a significant individual, a president and a CEO, and he gave me a hard reality. That reality was that brands are more interested in reach than impact. And okay, that's the reality from his perspective, and one that I respect and accept. They're more interested in reach than impact. I get that. I can understand that. Cycling is dealing with some of its own challenges.
Of course,
coming out of COVID, the expansion, and now the
contraction,
the contraction, yes. And so, what more can be done? Well, this guy sitting right here, I've got to figure out ways to work harder. I've got to get outside of just the endemic brands in cycling and share this message. Thank you to someone like you. With non-endemic brands, we've got to go find new sources. What other complementary sources are out there that would benefit from being at a cycling event? So with the last 2 years of the gala, we've brought in real estate investment companies. There are, automotive companies. So I have to find non-endemic brands. That's my job.
Yeah.
And I've got to work at that. That's work that has to be done. Brands have to do the part of understanding that common denominator, the bicycle, is truly a powerful tool, and it's got to be more than just the wheels and the group set and all of that. They've got to see through that the inclusion part of getting bikes to more people benefits them. Let's touch on the fact that we just had the World Championships in Rwanda, Kigali.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
On the African continent. Anybody that's sitting at a corporate office that's paying any attention, that's looking at the numbers, for the people that get paid the six figures to look at the numbers, you have got to understand where this is going. If this sport is going to survive, if it's going to grow, maybe not today, but soon come, as my mama would say, soon come. It will be a predominant sport of people of color. It will be a predominant sport of women. Get ahead of the curve. Figure out how you can get more bikes to other parts of the world, into the hands of people. That's your growing demographic. Hopefully that answers your question. And that's how we're going to get more inclusive.
Yeah. No, that's a brilliant answer, because kind of it boils down to if you are looking. I mean, you don't even need to look at long term. It's just is immediate. You just need to look at how the population is, the tapestry of the population that your brand serves, and analyze, well, am I providing enough resources to one versus the other? Am I investing communities more in one versus the other? And the fact that in essence, the bicycle is a catalyst for change, and that we're talking here about change, kind of social, economical, even political, if you want. And yes, there is barriers to entry. Cycling, we can't ignore that, as you mentioned. But even so, there are projects that are tackling that kind of the economic barrier to entry point to cycling, whether it is a grassroots level, a kind of national level. And so it's kind of it's understanding that the reality. You just need to understand that. Sorry, let me just rephrase this. You just need to look at around you. It's like, look at the population that you're serving and see, is this representative of the country? Is this representative of my city? And granted, there are brands that are global, have more funds, can have a greater impact than smaller brands that have a very limited budget and are kind of in their own ways reduced kind of what they can do. But I'm sure there are, whether it is at your local community, whether it is at countrywide, there is ways of supporting clubs, supporting growing communities, getting more people on bikes, getting more people of color on the bikes, getting more women of color on the bikes. So yeah, it just, I guess, to your point, we need to think about the impact that we want to have. And that comes back to the point of All Clubs LA and kind of the work you've been doing there. And I'm interested to find out, in this gala or through the bike rides. I'm interested to find out if there is any, and I'm sure there's plenty, but if there is one or a story of connection and transformation that you've witnessed through kind of creating the event and all of these people coming together.
Yes. So the answer to that is yes. Now I want to be sensitive here because I haven't asked anybody about sharing. There's a young lady by the name of Keisha. She has an organization, Major Knox, and I know that she met with a company. If you don't mind, I won't say the name of the company because the person who was with that company at that time in the leadership position is no longer there. And so, but she met with this company, and Major Knox, they do a ride that tells the history of Kitty Knox and the role she played in history in her bike ride. There's a young lady here by the name of Jade Stevens. She leads 40 Acres, which is an organization that is about equity in the outdoor arena. And that's the 40 Acres Conservation Foundation. And so she was one of my gala night speakers this year. And the number of people that have reached out, corporations that have reached out, her organization secured the money to buy 650 acres of land.
Wow.
And the things that she's going to do with that, and corporations reaching out to use it for things such as photo shoots and just all kinds of things. And I can tell you that I'm aware of two CEOs meeting at the gala, and one reaching out to me to ask me if the other one was speaking, and I said yes, and then so he's like, well, I want to speak too, and that competitiveness. But I saw following those two companies doing some things together. And so there, without a shadow of a doubt, have been meetings that took place at the gala through the weekend. And so, yes, to your question, there have been meetings that have taken place, and things come from those meetings.
Yeah, I mean that's the kind of one of the ambitions from what you mentioned through the conversation. So that's all. It's kind of positive. That a positive to take away from the event, one of many. So I guess looking ahead, what's next for All Clubs LA?
Mobility. We're evolving. I have someone that has come on board to assist. Our growth is organic. I have volunteers that are lending their expertise. She's a marketing person, and so I'm limited in what I can say today, but I can say that we are evolving, and mobility is the key word there. And I look forward to us making some announcements here in the next few weeks. But we will continue on the mission of bringing together the ecosystem, on focusing on building dialogue, on focusing on highlighting those amongst us who are doing amazing things. If I can just put in a plug,
Go for it.
I do a thing on Zwift and leading a ride that will be starting up as the weather changes. It's called Connect and Inspire.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. And we will be leading a Zwift ride and at the same time doing kind of an interview like this, but while doing Zwift and allowing an individual that's doing something locally throughout the nation to tell their story, during the Zwift ride. So that's what's on the horizon. And looking forward to sharing more of what we're going to be doing here just as soon as possible.
So, so you're leaving us on tenterhooks to the kind of news that will come out in the future about the upcoming developments. So how can people listening that have enjoyed this conversation, support or get involved with All Clubs LA mission?
Follow our website, allclubsla.com. Drop us an email through there if you're interested in being involved. More importantly, if you are a brand that's looking to be involved and you want to align yourself with growth, focus, inclusivity, now is an opportunity to show where you stand. While we're in a very divisive climate, here's an opportunity for you to show, where you align. Individuals, if you're doing things out there, drop us an email. Maybe we can get you on the Connect and Inspire. At least let us know so that, for future events, when we're looking for thought leadership speakers and things, we'll have this pool of people to call on. I keep my ear to the ground, Pedro. I'm from that old school of people maybe can relate to music and, A&R. I pride myself on that. But even still, maybe, I haven't heard of you. Drop us an email, just so that we can be aware. Again, I want to say thank you to you. Somehow you found us, you found me, and you're giving me this opportunity to, spend a little time with you on your podcast and share about All Clubs. I'm thankful for that. I'm grateful for that. So I'd like to do the same for others as well.
Thanks. It comes from a standpoint of curiosity, from a standpoint of understanding that the different cultures, what is happening out there in the world. Cycling is a wonderful way to bridge kind of people and it's just establish connections. So I think, for me, it's a privilege to have this time anyway. It's because it's sharing something that opens my eyes, hopefully opens the eyes of people listening to the work that you've been doing and the impact that you're having, which is most importantly what needs to be focused on. And I wanted now to bring the conversation to back to you personally, and this is a question I ask of all my guests. What does success look like to you?
Ooh. What does success look like to me? That sounds to me like there's an end point. And there's, for me, being very honest, there's not an end point. People often ask me, well, what's the next thing for All Clubs? Where do you see All Clubs going? And in my head, and if I'm being honest, and I always try to be honest, we got to do step one first. We still have to get step one done. And step one is still about bringing together the community. Not just coming together, but coming together with empathy. and understanding and the ability to have true dialogue. And that is something that I don't think all people fully understand. Dialogue means let's talk about some things. We can always agree to disagree, but let's talk about things. And oftentimes through communication and discussion, you can find your way. Most of the time, you can find your way to some alignment. Then, of course, there are times where you're just not going to find alignment. That is something we're experiencing today, right now in the world, I believe. So what is success to me? It's to be able to continue this work. It's the ability to continue seeing people from different communities come together, appreciating one another. And lastly, if I can help some of the folks that are up and coming get going, I want to do that. There were a lot of things in what we do today. For example, with my business partners, we own and operate a race series. We learned that process, trial and error. It would be nice to have someone, hey, I want to operate a race or put on a race or a race series, and someone say, here's how you do it. So I want to be able to be a platform for the people that are doing the work to be able to stand on and shine and other people see them. And success, lastly, not giving you the 5-course meal, lastly is to the people out there working. Work. I've seen too many people do stuff and they're only doing it for recognition. That's not what this is about. No, do the work. And if you're doing the work, if you're consistent, if you're disciplined, people will find you. And I'm an example of that.
That's true. Brilliant. I mean, it's there. It comes back to the word impact. Kind of having that. Obviously, you have to have the vision. Obviously, you need to understand what you want to achieve with the work you are prepared to put in. But if that work has a positive impact, even if it's only in one person, even if it's only in the community, that creates ripple effects. That creates a wave that will, people will start talking. You mentioned you have grown organically, and here we are talking about what you have started so many years ago. So that's that's impact. I guess that's kind of the word I wanted to kind of underline. So I guess now we come to the point where I started a tradition on the podcast where every guest leaves a question to my next guest, not knowing who they are. And the question that was left for you, I wanted to put it to you. We have touched on it already, but I wanted to kind of leave it, kind of give you the opportunity to answer it nonetheless. So the question is the following: what's the one thing you would change in the cycling? Sorry, I'll repeat without kind of breaking up. What is the one thing you would change in the cycling industry to make it more inclusive?
One thing. I'm
sure there's many, but I'm sure there's many.
Yes.
I don't. It's but for perhaps one thing that is most dear to you.
A clear, defined pathway. Let me try and give you an example. If I want to play football, high school, college, pros, if I don't make the pros, there's some small offshoots I could do. But there's a clear, defined pathway. If I want to play baseball, Little League, high school, AAA, the A leagues, get called up to the big leagues, pathway. Basketball, high school, AAU, the leagues, pathway, track and field, soccer. You get to cycling, where is our pathway? If I have a child today and I tell my child, I'm going to support you and I want you to try and be a pro cyclist one day, what's the pathway? And I think that the governing bodies from the ASO, the UCI here in our nation, USA Cycling, should come together and set up and clearly define pathways that could get the next generation at least thinking and understanding the possibility and what's required and what needs to be done to get to that potential level. The bike is so important because it is something that takes most people back to their childhood. You know, when we ride down the streets, and I know you didn't ask all this, but when we ride down the street in huge groups, people clap and they wave and cars honk their horns because it returns them to their childhood. They see these huge groups. And so that's something that I think that would be one thing that would be tremendously impactful is if we can figure out the pathway for youth to come up through. It's not just going to do a crit in an industrial park. That's not okay. So having a clearly defined path.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, it's something that I have touched upon many times here on the podcast. Is something that we see in many other sports. You mentioned them. You know, if you have that pathway, if you can see the kind of the steps that you need to take to get to the top, you'll see all the role models along the way that I've kind of traversed that pathway as well. You can get there. But if you have to ask here, ask there, do that, and then kind of try to piece together a puzzle that you don't have the kind of you don't have a clue how to put it together, then it becomes a question of who you know rather than how you show up, your skill rather than kind of becomes I guess the privilege versus the talent or the kind of the opportunities. If you don't have the opportunity, then you can't see it. So with that, I wanted to open the floor to you. What question would you like to leave to my next guest?
Wow. Okay.
Big moment.
That's the question I would leave is, let me give you a little bit of background. In everything that I do, when I'm trying to pull together a bike ride, when I am trying to host a gala, if I should ever speak, this is something that I have always done, and it leads to the question. I'm only trying to reach one person. That's what I tell myself. I could be standing in front of a crowd of thousands. I'm only trying to reach one. As corny as it may sound, if I can reach one that really resonates and gets what I'm trying to say, then I did my job. So my question is to whomever gets it, what are you doing to reach at least one? To leave an impact. And as you said earlier, if you reach one, that ripple ripples out, and it can be an infinite ripple. So what are you doing to reach just one person? How are you trying to deliver whatever it is you're packaging and delivering to reach that one person?
Brilliant. I mean, that's a very thought-provoking question. It's it kind of, it's great because it really puts you kind of, I guess, for me, asks you to ask me to take a step back and say, okay, let me actually reflect about this. How is my work changing that person's life? How is what I say making an impact on that person? So yeah, it does. It's a brilliant question to really, I guess, reflect on the work, on your beliefs, and the impact that you're having, whoever it might be.
Thank you, by the way.
So my pleasure. So Ken, thank you very much for taking the time to share your purpose, share your mission, the vision that you have, and the work you've been doing with All Clubs LA and the other projects that you have involved in. And kind of the message, the overarching message that, for me comes across is we are, as cycling and the world as cycling, we are better together rather than apart. And that's kind of for me the overarching kind of, if you will, a slogan. But that, thanks for thanks for your time,
Pedro. Listen, I'm sincere when I say this. As I said earlier, I don't take myself too serious. I'm grateful for any opportunity because nothing is guaranteed, and I thank you for taking and making the time. I thank you for exhibiting some of the things we've talked about. One day you had a vision to have a podcast, and you've stuck it out to have this podcast ride to success. And because of that platform you created, here I get to sit today and talk with you and get to know you and meet you. And I will now know you forever. And, and you believe me. And so you exemplify some of the very things that we're talking about today. So thank you again for finding me and giving me the opportunity to run my mouth. I do that pretty well.
Brilliant. Thank you. That's a wrap for this powerful conversation with Kenneth Vinson. From the spark that created All Clubs LA to the growing movement of unity, inclusion, and the celebration it has become, Kenneth gave us so many takeaways today. And if this conversation got you thinking differently about your community, your sport, your own ride, please share this episode with 2 friends. And don't forget to follow Ride to Success wherever you listen. And if Kenneth's story moved you, tag us on Instagram or drop us a message. We'd love to hear your biggest takeaway. Thank you for listening.